Hey folks, so check this out. This demo app, I don't have Laravel Mix or anything installed. I don't have, I don't need Node or npm for this one. I'm using import maps, which is the same strategy as Rails 7 ships out of the box right now. And I wanted to walk you folks through it. So in my welcome.play.php file, I have this component over here, which is import map scripts. I'm gonna call it, I'm gonna rename it later to import maps tags, maybe. Yeah, I think tags is better. But the idea, you give it an entry point and it will render the import maps and the shim to make everything work across all browsers. But yeah, this is all you need essentially. In my resources.js, I only have an app.js file, which is the same. So the entry point over here should point to the entry point in your resources.js file. And in here, you only have a comment saying start import maps in the importmaps.php file in the routes folder. If we go to that file in routes import maps, we see that there are two functions imported, pin and pin-alphron. I'm using pin-alphron, and yeah, so essentially I'm pinning everything inside the resources.js folder. I'm not sure about the path here. Maybe I'll change it, but yeah, for now that will do. And what does this do, right? So if we try to load this in the browser, we'll see that two JS files were imported. One is our app.js and the other one is the shim to make import maps work in Firefox, for instance, which is the browser that I'm using. If we check the source code, we can see that the blade component that we added to the page only does this. And so this is the shim to make it import maps work. And this is the import maps JSON, or the imports actually. And here we say that whenever our code use import from or import and a source, whenever it reaches for an app file, it will, that means it's this file. This file comes from this URL or URI. So this namespace, this module comes from this URL. And that's essentially it. So import maps is a JSON that maps what we are importing, the modules, and where should we point it to. All right, but that's cool, right? But let's see that in action. So if we go to the terminal, let me increase my font here, and we do artisan list import maps, we see that there are a couple commands that we can use. And one of them is import maps.json. And then we can see the JSON that's going to be imported in the browser. And what we can do here is import maps pin, and I'll say Alpine.js. And that will fetch we'll get the URL to Alpine.js using the JSPM module, the JSPN CDN, and pin that in our routes import maps file. So if we get that file now, we'll see that there is a new pin, and that pin points to Alpine.js. And yeah, what this means is in our app.js file, we can import Alpine from Alpine.js, and we can run Alpine start, and we can assign Alpine to the window, which is the installation for Alpine, like the steps to install Alpine. And we don't need to compile or anything. This code is perfectly fine in browsers. And that actually imported. So this is there is a new import, which is Alpine. And if we try to run Alpine here, we see that it's actually installed. So that's cool, but there's nothing, we are not actually using Alpine. Let's use it. And I have a snippet over here that I'm gonna copy and I'm gonna paste it over here. So if I try to run that in a browser and I see hello world, we see that we are actually using Alpine. So that's awesome. We didn't need npm or anything for this to work, and that's cool. But yeah, we are relying on CDNs, and sometimes some people don't like to rely on CDNs. So what can we do about it? We can, of course, run the same command that we ran, but this time with a download flag, and that will actually download the Alpine.js module and will store it in resources.js vendor Alpine.js. So this means that we will have to commit this vendor folder to our source control if we want to. Um, but yeah, it downloaded Alpine.js to our resources.js vendor folder, and it's spinning that to this file. And now we can go back to the browser and check this out. It's actually loading our rendered Alpine.js, so we can just use it regularly. We don't need Node or anything. The cool part of this is that we are running import maps from PHP. All the commands are in PHP, and we don't need Node or npm. So that's cool. What else can we do? Well, let's try something different. Let's try Stimulus.js. So import maps pin stimulus. I think it's actually hotwire stimulus, and that should add it to the import maps.php, which it did. And now we can go back to our app file, and I'm gonna copy some lines over here just so we can set it up. So before I do anything, let's see what that did to our import maps.json, and that just installed Stimulus. So let's create our controller first. I'm gonna create a new controllers folder and greeter controller.js. If I go back to the import maps.json, since I'm mapping the entire JS folder, all files inside that folder are being added to the import maps JSON, basically, except except for the vendor folder. So yeah, let's see what we can do here. So I can now import controller from hotwire the stimulus, and I can export default class extends controller connect, so I can log in this class is connected, and I should be able to import stimulus over here as well, but just the application. And then I'll import the controller that we just created, which is actually greeter. And this will be called greeter. And I can start stimulus and register the greeter controller over here. So yeah, let's make use of it. So I'm gonna create another div, but I'm gonna copy it. So I actually have I'm gonna add a HR horizontal rule, and I'm gonna copy some snippet and I'm gonna paste it right here. So this is greater, and over here it should be greater, but we are not quite there yet. And this should be greater as well. Okay. Now let's go back to the browser and see it. It actually worked. So we are running the console log inside our greater controller.js file. So that's awesome. And let's make it work. So we need to add this handle method, and we need to add some targets. So let's do that. Static targets, and that's our input and output. And we are going to add a handle function, which will get our output target inner text equals to our input target value. And if we refresh the browser, we go back to our stimulus, hello from stimulus, and trigger, and everything seems to be working. So yeah, that's what I have so far. That's a proof of concept for the idea of using import maps, and I think it's feasible. I'm not sure if I would vendor, not sure yet if I would vendor the libraries myself or rely on CDNs. But yeah, you can see that both words are actually useful. So yeah, let me know what you think, and let me know if you have any concerns about this, or if you think it's not that good, whatever. Just, yeah, let me know. All right. I'll see you when I see you. Bye.